So moving into our arm balancings, what's the first kind of descriptive word or term you could think of for the arm balancing? What do they bring to mind? Flying. Exactly, flying. This upward lifting kind of thing, right? Crow pose. Ooh, flying on your hands. If you teach them that way, however, as many of us know, it is not effective because the flying is something that just happens organically from two other things happening. What could those two other things be? Foundation, core, then expression, then the fly. So when you teach a learning to fly class or arm balancings, think of how you set the foundation, pressing down into the earth, and then that corresponding lift that comes from pressing into the earth. The next thing that happens in that opposing motion, right, you ground and you lift into center. If you can, so what I always teach in these flying poses is first move down, right, down into the ground, that's the foundation. Then most people teach, try to get into the pose. So here's what most people, not most people, but many people teach. Plant the hands down, right? They have the foundation, press the knees into the arms, and then float forward. So it's basically a balance. There's not a lot of upward moving energy, prana, to this pose. It's just kind of praying for a miracle and hoping that you can stay there somehow, balancing on your bones. And balancing on the bones is important. There's a lot of physics involved in where you place the arms, but the second thing, we're skipping the middleman again in that sequence. So instead we want to ground down, right? Set that foundation. Set the foundation here up on the arms. So you get the structure of the pose set. And then you want to, second, which many people forget, is to squeeze in and up, core. Squeeze in, elbows and knees. So the inner thighs ignite, right? The inner arms ignite. So you're not losing power by bending those elbows out to the sides. Also can tweak the wrists because with the elbows out to the side, the wrists compress on the outer hand. So you want to keep the wrists clear. So we're squeezing in. That takes a lot of inner thigh strength. So we begin to drop in. And then the second thing is not to launch forward, it's to move up. So once we squeeze in, we're moving this energy up from the earth. We drop into the core, we curl the tailbone. We hug the rib cage in, so it's very core connected. And then from the higher, inwardly drawn core connected place, then we send it forward. We maintain the height and we send the pose forward. It's a very different pose than set the foundation, which is low, and then slide forward. Because I can hang out here all I want, but it's very hard once you get into expression to pull back up into that core strength and find the true freedom and flight of these poses. So, foundation, core expression. The core poses are the arm balancings are core postures. They're core strengthening, they're abdominal poses. It's really helping you draw that kind of center back into yourself. You want to keep that kind of what I call the girdle, which is not a very attractive word, but it helps you remember. Maybe a cummerbund, I don't know, what else could it be? Cute belt of power, like Wonder Woman, you know.
Sash.
Sachet, Shantae, I like that. The sash of power. Right, guys, I'm sure that's good for you. He's like, I'm not putting on a sash of power. So you can't, it's not that you're just lifting up all through the abdominals. You're also reaching the heart forward, which is pulling in that low back curve helpfully. You're drawing up through the side waist, right? Getting some length in that low back spine, so you're not compressing and pressing too hard. You're pulling up through the pelvic floor, so you've got all the sides and the center of the core lifting you up, just like any pose. So when you add that to the physics of your arms in the poses, and most of the arm balancings have something happening, the hands are straight forward. We'll go back to that in a minute. They have something of this. Elbows have to be over the wrists in the arm balance, shoulders hover forward. So if you are here in crow setting up, a lot of people try to squeeze in and up with the elbows back. And what's going to happen is they're going to just keep getting denied. They're going to keep falling back out of that pose. So we'll be like, squeeze in, hug in, use more core strength, press down to the floor more, use your fingertips, all the stuff that we know, like strong and in and all that stuff. But if their elbows are not in alignment, they're not going to be able to be in that pose. So the physics of the arms and arm balancing is very, very important. So almost every arm balance in this kind of category has the elbows over the wrist. So the last direction I give is not like launch, get up in the pose, like fly, like ready, fly. It's squeeze, it's plant the foundation, hug in and up, and then slide the elbows forward over the wrist. Squeeze in and up again, see if you can balance that right there, take it a little bit higher. Okay, whether the shoulders are a little bit forward or they're up, the elbows stay stacked over the wrist. That's the same in some of, like we did this Tadasana tonight. Right, you slide those elbows back over the wrist and then begin to build the rest of the pose. So you see it in almost every arm balancing of this sort. So we can take it to the Astabhakrasana. Right, you want to lean elbows over wrists. Shoulders might be a little higher, they might be a little bit lower, but they stay where you put them. And so at that point, you have now the physics on your side to be able to get them at all. So I would look at that foundation to core and then take the arms into the physics of alignment of bones. Right? Head reaches forward, looks up. It doesn't help you move down to the floor by, looking down. Heavy head needs to lift and help you out to rise up. So, you can play with that a little bit. We're going to move through the arm balances a little bit. If you don't feel like you're warm enough to do it, that's okay. I would say a couple of, maybe Erica or some of you who teach, you can share with me some of your assists. But who feels comfortable in rocking a couple arm balances right now and being my model? Actually, I'll take Shannon because I know you just
did that
did the 2 hours of yoga. So you should be fine. Okay. So, Shannon has